When is sunrise? Peter asked. In about 3-4 hours, said Granger. Or maybe 2, I'm not sure. It's a gradual process, not so dramatic. They were driving straight over raw, uncultivated ground. There was no road or track or any evidence that anyone had ever driven or walked here before, although Granger had assured him that she had made this trip once a month. In the absence of tracks or lights, it was sometimes difficult to believe they were moving, despite the gentle vibration of the vehicle's chassis. The view in every direction was the same. Granger would occasionally glance at the dashboard's computerized navigation system, which kept her informed when they were about to stray from the correct course. The landscape, what little Peter could see of it in the dark, was surprisingly bare given the humid climate. The earth was chocolate brown and so densely compacted that the tyres travelled smoothly across it, causing no jolts to the suspension. Here and there the terrain was spotted with small patches of white mushroom. No trees, no bushes, not even any grass. A dark, moist desert. So, said Peter, tell me what you know. About what? Her relaxed demeanour was gone in a flash. She was on her guard again. About the people we're going to see. They're not people. Well, he drew a deep breath. Here's an idea, Granger. How about we agree to use the term people in its extended sense of inhabitants? The original Roman etymology isn't clear, so who knows? Maybe it meant inhabitants anyway. Of course, we could use creature instead, but there are problems with that, don't you think? I mean, personally, I'd love to use creature if we could take it back to its Latin origins, creatura, created thing, because we're all created things, aren't we? But it's suffered a bit of a decline, hasn't it, that word, through the centuries, to the point where creature, to most people, means monster or at least animal. Which reminds me, wouldn't it be nice, Granger, to use animal for all things that breathe? After all, the Greek word anima means breath or soul, which pretty much covers everything we're looking for, doesn't it? Silence settled in the cabin. Granger drove, keeping her eyes straight on the headlight beam, just as before. After 30 seconds or so, which seemed quite a long time in the circumstances, she said, "Well, it's plain to see you're not an uneducated holy roller from Hicksville." "I never said I was." She glanced aside at him, caught him smiling, smiled back. "Tell me, Peter, what made you decide to come here and do this?" "I didn't decide," he said. "God did." "He sent you an email?" "Sure." He grinned wider. "You wake up in the morning, go to the inbox of your heart, check what's loaded in. Sometimes there's a message." That's kind of a corny way of putting it. He stopped smiling, not because he was offended, but because the discussion was turning serious. Most true things are kind of corny, don't you think? But we make them more sophisticated out of sheer embarrassment. Simple truths with complicated clothes on. The only purpose of the linguistic dressing up is so people won't look at the contents of our naked hearts and minds and say, "How naff." She frowned. Naff? It's a British slang term meaning trite or banal, but with an extra overtone of nerdishness, uncoolness, dorkishness. Wow, did they teach American slang in your Bible school too? Peter took a swig from the water bottle. I never went to Bible school. I went to the University of Hard Drinking and Drug Abuse. Got my degree in toilet bowl interior decoration and hospital casualty ward occupancy. And then you found God. Then I found a woman called Beatrice. We fell in love. Guys don't often put it that way. What do you mean? Guys say we got together, or you can guess the rest, or something like that. Something that doesn't sound quite so naff? Exactly. Well, we fell in love, said Peter. I quit the booze and drugs to impress her. I hope she was impressed. Yes. He took a last swig, screwed the top back on the water bottle and slid it onto the floor between his feet. Although she didn't tell me so until years later. Addicts don't handle praise well. The pressure of living up to it drives them back to drink and drugs. Yup. Have you had some experience of these things in your life? Yup. Do you want to talk about it? Not right now. She readjusted the posture in the seat, revved the engine, drove a little faster. The blush on her face made her look more feminine, although it accentuated the white scar under her hairline. She had pulled off her headscarf so that it hung loosely around her neck. Her short crop of soft mousy hair fluttered in the air conditioning. Your girlfriend sounds like a smart cookie. She's my wife, and yes, she's smart. Smarter, or at least wiser, than I am, that's for sure. Then why was it you that got chosen for this mission? Peter rested his head against the seat and closed his eyes for a moment. I've wondered about that myself. I suppose God must have other plans for Beatrice at home. Granger didn't comment. Peter looked at out the side window. The sky was a little lighter. Perhaps he was only imagining it. A particularly large clump of mushrooms trembled as they swept by. You didn't answer my question, he said. I told you I didn't want to talk about it, she said. No, I meant my question about the people we're going to see. What do you know about them? They're, She struggled for several seconds to find the right words. They like their privacy. I could have guessed that. Not a single photo in any of the brochures and reports I was given. I was expecting at least one smiley picture of your management personnel shaking hands with the locals. She chuckled. That would be difficult to arrange. No hands? Sure they have hands. They just don't like to be touched. So, describe them. It's difficult, she said. I'm not good at descriptions. We'll see them soon enough. Do try. He batted his eyelashes. I'd appreciate it. Well, they wear long robes and hoods. Like monks, I guess. So, they're human in shape. I guess. It's kind of hard to tell. But they have 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso. Sure. He shook his head. That surprises me. All along I've been cautioning myself that I mustn't assume the human design is some sort of universal standard. So I was trying to imagine big spider-like things, or eyes on stalks, or giant hairless possums. Giant hairless possums? She beamed. I love it. Very sci-fi. But why should they have human form, Granger, of all the forms they might conceivably have? Isn't that exactly what you'd expect from sci-fi? Yeah, I guess. Or religion, maybe. Didn't God create man in his own image? I wouldn't use the word man. The Hebrew is Adam, which I would argue encompasses both sexes. Pleased to hear it, she said, deadpan. Again, they drove on for a couple of minutes in silence. On the horizon, at 2 distinct points on the horizon, miles apart, Peter was certain he could see the beginnings of a glow. A subtle haze of illumination, turning the junction of sky and earth from dark aquamarine against black to green against brown. If you stared at it too long, you began to wonder whether it was just an optical illusion, a hallucination, a frustrated yearning for the end of night. And in between those 2 glowing points, was that? Yes, there was something else on the horizon. Raised structures of some sort. Mountains? Boulders? Buildings? A town? A city? Granger had said the nearest settlement was about 50 miles away. They must have travelled half that distance by now, surely. Do they have genders? He said at last. Who? She said. The people we're going to see. Granger gave him a look of mock exasperation. why don't you just come straight out and use the word aliens? Thank you.